We got a lot going on in the baseball world. We got one of the best closers in baseball getting maybe some sticky stuff suspension coming a few minutes ago. We've got one of the top prospects in baseball getting an 80-game suspension. We were talking about that, ads and drops, all kinds of baseball stuff, all coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Coming to you a little bit earlier tonight on this Sunday night. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always by Jeff Erickson. We are sponsored by DraftKings Pick 6. We appreciate them for that. If you can rate or review the podcast, if you enjoy listening to us all year long, please do that. Leave us a bunch of stars. A nice comment goes a long way towards helping us out. Jeff, how's everything going? It was a kind of a wild last few hours in baseball here.
Yeah, anything happen? Yeah, crazy stuff. And of course, the big thing that happens at 7:01 Pacific time or 10:01 bid time, whatever it is.
It's like the third time in the last 4 weeks something like that happened.
Unbelievable. And it's always wild. Closers. Yeah. Always. It's so bad.
So Edwin Diaz came in the game at 5-2 when he did his came in. It was at Wrigley, so there was no trumpets or anything like that. But it looked like from what we've seen, it happened like 45 minutes ago. But it looks like during the inspection or check-in with the umpires, they ejected him. So we're assuming we get some quotes during the podcast here. We'll let you know, but I'm assuming it's a sticky stuff thing. And obviously, losing the save in a 5-2 game sucks because that's an easy layup save for Edwin Diaz. I mean, you get a bases empty 3-run lead. I mean, you dream about those if you have a closer. But now, I mean, it's an automatic 10-game suspension too. And I would have done things a little differently if I had known that was not a spot I could use this week. Because, I mean, that was one of my 9 pitchers this week in one of my main events. So I would alter things a little bit, make sure that I had someone that was that I was comfortable starting. But, yeah, it's rough. And if you get this suspension, we're assuming that sucks for team owners too.
It does. And even tougher is we don't even know who's going to be the guy that replaces him. It was Smith plus Diekman tonight because that's how it worked out. Yep. But in the 8th inning, but we know that Garrett pitched the 8th inning. In the past, they didn't really settle on one guy. Ottavino and Diekman and Garrett all were kind of part of the picture. Smith might be part of the picture here too. I mean, but you never know when it's just like something like that where Diaz didn't even throw a pitch too. That was one of the things that was so beguiling about the situation too. And you and I both have main event teams that need saves badly. And, it's just an avenue that wasn't open to us. And the thing, one of the dumber things too, for us is by the time we get to bid on a replacement, seven games will be gone. So.
And that's the funny thing with this is that Diaz obviously was out with the injury, and it was always kind of a pretty fluid situation when he was not there. Like we tried to get Ottavino, we tried to be Reed Garrett, like they've a lot of arms, and kind of ended up being nobody. I mean, I don't remember. I'd have to look at the exact save breakdown, but it felt like nobody really was got a windfall from that situation.
No, it didn't. And I misspoke, by the way. They get 2 off days this week.
Yeah, they're one of the 3 teams with 5 games, so they'll be the second half or the first half at least of next week too. Which
I thought I heard the manager complaining about no off days coming up and all that. No, they got 2 this week, and then they have a big stretch after that. So
they have their Yankees series this week, so they're off Monday, 2 against the Yankees, and off Thursday before they face Houston.
Yep. So at least we'll get 5 games to bid on. Theoretically. And there's no appeal to this too either.
As someone who has Diaz though, I'd rather just get all 7. I'd rather have a 7-game week this week, get 7 done. And then
of course
I could use him next week. Now I can't use him next week. He's out 2 weeks for sure.
No, I'm speaking as a non-Diaz owner that we at least have 5 games to bid on next week.
Yep.
Or, week and a half in leagues. Like I got Labor that has bids due at 9:00 tonight, Pacific time. So I don't know. I think it's, obviously I'd bid on Chapman before any Mets possible Aroldis Chapman.
Easily.
When we'll get to Aroldis, we'll get to the Bednar situation there.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that shortly, but
I mean, I'd probably, if I had to pick one, I'd go Reed Garrett, but I still think it's just going to be kind of a mixing and matching. I'm not, I wouldn't go crazy for anybody, to be honest.
Yeah. I wouldn't either.
The other big news this morning, Orelvis Martinez, who just got called up by the Jays this week and had been crushing in AAA, got suspended 80 games for usage of PEDs. He released a statement that said it was a product that was in a fertility drug that they had been taking, he and his girlfriend trying to have kids. So he's out 80 games though. Like he was going to be one of the guys we talked to pickups this week too. I mean, he's been really good. He had 16 home runs in the minors. He's one of their bigger prospects. They need offense. They lost 66 straight games. So if they were going to trade for somebody, he was going to be a big piece. But I think they'd probably move past the time they were going to trade for guys. Maybe they're going to trade away guys. But this is obviously a big blow for Martinez. Big blow for, especially people in draft champions, like kind of waiting for Martinez. And he was going to be, somebody who could play the last 3 months. I have him in my draft champions. I just put him in the lineup this week. It hurts. He was going to be someone that was going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. AL Tout Wars, 3 weeks ago, I offered Luis Gil up for Volpe. And, at that point, Gil was at the peak of his powers. I knew it. I needed hitting badly. He thought it wasn't enough, came back with, here, let's do a challenge here. I want Jackson Holiday coming back. Maybe I can give you Orelvis Martinez. We can see who gets the call first. Back to the drawing board for both of us there.
Well, Martinez got the call first.
He did. Hey.
And Holiday's hurt now. He's out for a while too.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like it's a complete other wipeout.
Yeah, it's just kind of. Did you guys make the trade or not make the trade?
No, we didn't make any trade yet.
Right.
So, yep. And I was traveling a lot. I didn't follow up quickly enough either. But yeah, it's just a thing there. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what the Jays do. I know we're kind of leading into that. Also, that hey, they've lost 60 in a row now. I mean, 6 in a row. Why did I say 60? It feels like 60, eh? I'm just using the metric system.
For Jays fans, it probably does feel like 60. But the interesting part of this, and we've talked about this a bunch the last couple of weeks, is just how kind of compacted the wild card standings are. But you look at Toronto now, 6 games lost in a row. They're minus 50 run differential. They're 15.5 behind the Yankees, 14 behind the Orioles. So that's like long gone. But now they're 6.5 behind Boston. They're kind of slumping down. I mean, they're 6.5. Yeah, 6.5 behind Boston for the third wild card with like 6 teams in between them. It's not just 6.5. It's all the teams in between. Texas in there, Houston's in there, who's playing really well. Finally, Kansas City's in there, who's been better than them all year. The only team they're ahead of are the 3 that are dead: the Angels, the A's, and the White Sox. If you're Toronto, do you sell? I mean, what do you do here?
I think. Well, here's the thing. I mean, it might be tough to pitch a sell because it might mean that you failed in your job to building a winner around this core.
That's a good point.
What do you sell? That's the tough part. Like, do you sell Bo Bichette? Do you sell Vlad? I mean, do you just tear it down to the studs and start over? You do bits and pieces. I mean, George Springer's already losing playing time.
I was going to say, do you think there's any chance somebody wants Springer through 2026? Because, oh my gosh, he's been awful.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, a sell is pretty much please fire the GM move. So does the current GM get the right to do the next rebuild also? I mean, don't you have to start with the new GM?
I'm assuming so, because this has been kind of a failure at this point, right?
Yeah. And ask Jays fans how they feel about Ross Atkins. It's not great, and maybe he's kind of, has his hands tied a little bit by ownership, but anytime Atkins has spoken, it's been something that has reviled the fan base a little bit.
And it was just a couple of years ago where you looked at that lineup. You're like, oh, I'm watching Jays games because this lineup is young. It's fun. Obviously Kevin Biggio kind of flamed out. Now he's with the Dodgers. Alejandro Kirk flamed out hard. Like, this is someone we thought was going to hit for a lot of average. Just been bad the last couple of years. You look at their lineup now. You got, Isaiah kind of Falefel's one of their better hitters leading off. Spencer Horwitz had 2 home runs today. But you look at it and, Varsho's not quite with us. Although he's doing fine. But it's just Springer's falling off the table. It's Bo and Vlad and kind of nothing else.
Yeah, well, they went through this defense first philosophy, and including it, perhaps changing the altering the ballpark, the specifications of the ballpark, and it's blown up in their face. I mean, their offense is so tough to watch, and that's the thing they made this big push to get Ohtani. We think they did, at least. We don't. Here's some of the things. Like, there was.
We know they were in the mix, but who knows what? I mean,
this whole airplane tracker thing is such a fraud because it was never the case. He was never on that plane.
No.
So, how close were they really to getting him?
And the Dodgers gave him so much money. Like, were they matching that? I obviously have no idea.
So much of it deferred, which they want. Ohtani wanted and they wanted. Yep. I mean, it's kind of win-win. They got, as Jeff Biddle points out, they got rid of Teoscar. They chose to get rid of Teoscar.
I mean, that lineup like 1 through 7 was awesome a couple years ago and so fun too. And now it's wild how quickly it's gone away.
Yeah, and some of that is just natural decline. Some of that's ballpark changes. Some of it is that some of these guys just aren't that good either. I mean,
I was going to say some of it is Vlad is not the 2021 guy that he
Right.
was, because last year he was 26.94, which is a really good player, but we're talking an MVP level type guy with a 15% barrel rate and 48-111 in 2021. Like that was a top 5 offensive player in baseball at that point.
Yeah. By the way, and rebuilding in the AL East is also very difficult.
Yeah,
Although we have a blueprint in the division. You have the Orioles right there.
Yeah. I mean, but that was a lot of really, really meager years.
A lot of pain.
Yeah.
A lot of pain. They had to get those early picks. They also had to hit on some of those. They chose to build around offense. And then, and then they did the ballpark change, which actually helped their pitching too. They have Baltimore now.
Yep.
It's not helping them. It didn't help them in Houston this weekend, but I don't know, dude. I think it's really difficult to do what they're doing.
I think it is too. I think they're just in a kind of a bad spot.
Yep.
Speaking of the AL East, we talk so much about the Yankees and the Orioles. Boston's really playing pretty well this year. They're 6 games over 500. I know they're 9 games back, but they're in the wild card right now. They're a plus 48 run differential. They've been clearly better than Tampa and Toronto. I think that a lot of people thought maybe Boston was the 5th best team in this division, maybe the 4th best. It depends what you thought about Tampa, but playing really well. Jarren Duran is just in fuego right now. He is on fire. He is doing everything well. He's a huge scorer in fantasy leagues right now.
He is. He's fantastic. They got him out of center field for the most part, and I think that was something that actually worked in his favor too. It was one of those where they moving him took some of the pressure off of him because he was, he had some high profile mess ups in center field, including the inside the park homer where he didn't really go hard after the ball. Got humbled and has come back stronger. Yeah,
he's just crazy hot right now. He's at like 390 in June. He had another stolen base hit. That's 9 for the month. He's got 4 homers. He's just, every time I look up, it's Duran stealing a base, Duran on base. They're kind of a fun little offense to watch. David Hamilton's been running a bunch. Manuel Valdez is playing pretty well, and obviously you got Devers and Tyler O'Neill in the middle. They're a lineup that's fun to watch. Wilyer Abreu, who I do like a lot, is back now. He just came bact yesterday. They're a fun little lineup. I think they're going to hang around this wild card chase for the long haul here.
Yeah, I think so too. Just think if they're in the National League, how much of a favorite they'd be. They'd be like 90% to be into the playoffs.
They really would. That's a fair point there. They're just, we talked about the National League after the Phillies, Braves, and Dodgers there, and Brewers. You got to put them in there too. That the rest of it is all 500 or below. I guess the Cardinals are 2 games over, so there's one team in there. But you mentioned the Astros Orioles series this weekend, which the Astros swept in Houston. Are the Astros finally here? They're in 2 games under 500 now. They've won 5 games in a row, 7 in the last 10. Sweeping the Orioles is obviously a big moment. Do you think the Astros are going to make a run here at Seattle pretty quick?
The pitching's still suspect.
Yeah.
That's my problem. They keep on having setbacks with pitchers. Hunter Brown has pitched a lot better lately.
He's pitched really well the last month or so.
Yeah. So I kind of count him as safe. Blanco just is maintained, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Framber, you don't know what you're going to get every time out.
Pitched really well against the Orioles this weekend.
He did today. He did do that indeed. Did pitch very well earlier in the week though against the White Sox. Eric Getty is improved. Verlander's hurt. I still wonder, how many do they add another pitcher and how can they do so?
Yeah. And Eric Getty had a stretch there where he had some moments, but I feel like he's kind of gone backwards a little bit. His last couple, so he gave up 7 runs to Detroit 2 starts ago, and then only pitched 4 1/3 this last start. So he had that really good stretch after being really bad, and maybe now he's bad again. That's, if he's your 4 right now, it's not great. You're right. The pitching is still a little suspect. The offense seems to be coming around. It'll be interesting to see if they can flip a switch or maybe add a pitcher or what it's going to be. But I think they need a starter or 2 with Verlander out. Yeah,
and so that Verlander out is another key here. I mean, is he really a minimum absence?
Yeah.
Or is it a case there where, they kind of slow played this neck injury and it's connected to the shoulder stuff he was dealing with earlier this year? If so, it could be a lot longer, and that would probably prompt another move, I would think.
They're feeling the Christian Javier and Jose Urquidy, Tommy Johns, the Lance McCullers always hurt, having had elbow surgery, and he may be back sometime this summer, but I don't think we can ever count on that. But just, you lose that many arms. Luis Garcia too. I didn't even think about that one.
Yep.
You just lose that many arms. It starts to really wear on you.
They even called up that kid Jake Bloss from Double A, and of course, 3 2/3 innings into his first start, he gets hurt. He's on the IL now with the shoulder issue there too. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot left. You really have to kind of dig deep to find someone who could be the next guy to get the call. I mean, and you know what? That winning teams have bad farm systems often. The Dodgers are unique in that they have a great farm system and a great roster.
Yeah. Since we're talking Astros, I'm going to dip into the news and notes real quick. The Kyle Tucker thing is a little bit strange. It's really gone on for long. And it's like, I wonder if an x-ray missed something or something else there. Cause they said it's a contusion, but he's still limping. As of yesterday, there was a report he's still limping in the clubhouse and hasn't done any baseball activities. When they first went on the IL, first it was gonna be a few days. They went on the IL like, oh, it's the minimum, we'll be back that Friday. And now we're at 10 days past that Friday. Is this thing's lingering and not going away? It's frustrating because Kyle Tucker was having a monster year.
I think Todd and I were talking about this. He almost tried to finish that at bat.
Yeah.
If you remember.
And it was going to be 3 days and then 10 days at most. And we're at 20 days now, whatever it is.
Yeah. Todd suggested it, and I thought about it too. It's a possibility that he might have like a hairline fracture that they can't find, something like that.
I guess so. But you think
that's what the timeline looks like to me.
It does, me too. But you think they would go back in and look? But maybe I'm sure it's not as easy as I'm making it seem. But
right.
I mean, he's been out. It's been a full 20 days. He heard it on June 3rd is when he had the one at bat and came out, and that's we're June 23rd now. And it doesn't seem like he's especially close at the moment either.
Yeah, it doesn't, and so I'm nervous about this one here.
Me too. He was at 19 home runs, 10 stolen bases. That is a fixture first round guy, and that's tough to lose.
Yep.
We talk a lot about ads, and we're going to do that at some point too. But I got a few drop questions for you, Jeff. Can we do that?
Of course we can, Scott.
The hot button one, the first one, is someone that we actually did different things on tonight. Is Jordan Romano in Toronto. We talked a bunch about him. He was hurt, then he came back, wasn't very good, got hurt again. There was a report yesterday that while he was throwing a long toss from 120 feet, he had to stop because of more his elbow was sore again. Obviously, that's a setback. We don't know how significant a setback it is, but I mean, this has been a recurring injury. This is now the third time this essentially has been shutting. He's not going to throw. This pushes the timeline back. If I'm being optimistic, a couple of weeks, and that's dead optimistic, and then maybe it's a couple weeks to ramp up. We're probably looking at another 3 to 4 weeks in the best case scenario. Do you think Jordan Romano's a drop at this point? I think I know your answer because I know what you did.
I did drop Jordan.
This is in a 15-teamer, correct?
It is the NFBC main event, and Chu and I talked about it. We could have dropped Nate Pearson, but I don't think Romano's gonna pitch for a month.
And I think
it was long toss.
I think
it's not like he was pitching from a mound yet.
I think 1 month is the most optimistic possible timeline, and that never happens with pitchers.
And honestly, I can't wait a month. I'd rather hold on to the bird in hand that the guy that's playing right now in Pearson, last outing, 2 strikeouts, 10-pitch inning. Green is the interim guy for now, is what they've announced it even. But then he's been pretty so far this week. And, it doesn't help that there hasn't been a 9th inning lead to protect. Yeah.
I was going to say, as we were talking earlier, it would have been nice to see their usage in a game that they actually won. We did note that, Pearson came in the 7th inning game. They were up 1, but there's pockets of stuff. And I think you're right. I think Green's probably the next save, but I don't think Green is locked down by any means.
Yeah. Last 2 days, yesterday and today, they each got a get work inning in the 8th inning, protecting a deficit. Yeah. Because that's the best they could do right now. And, Green allowed a couple base runners to the Guardians today. Romano looked great. Now, granted, it's a super micro sample size. It's not even that, but it's enough that I want to hold on to Pearson.
And the key here is that Jimmy Garcia just began playing catch today. They said it went well when he played catch. But I mean, you're talking playing catch, flat ground. I mean, that's weeks off too. He's not pitching.
We're talking about catch.
Yeah. We're talking, it's got to be 3 weeks, right? If he's just playing catch, he's got to throw off a mound. He's got to throw a long toss. He's got to throw a bullpen. Then he's got to go on a rehab assignment. You're talking probably 3 weeks before he's pitching. So this is a 3-week stint where someone's got to get saves for the Blue Jays, assuming they win a game in that stretch.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Exactly. And honestly, I've got to do something there where I got to take a chance at it. Take some chances. I have one closer right now. We dropped Tyler Kinney this week too. Merciful drop there. Never Rocky closer. Never. I violated that rule. I got what I deserved with that.
And he wasn't even getting all the save ops either. Beeks was getting some too. If you're gonna get a Rocky closer, he better get every save op no matter what. And just
Right.
even
Beeks blew one today, by the way, too.
Yes, he did. Yeah, blew one to the Nats.
Yeah.
My second guy of 3 here on Do You Drop? We actually mentioned him earlier. I probably should have segued then, but in Toronto again, I have this person in my 15 teamer, same team as Romano, so it's going really well, as you can imagine. George Springer has been really, really bad. And we're at June 23rd. We're essentially, I'm just going to call it the halfway point of the season. It may not be exactly, but it's 48 or 49%, something like that. It's not turning around. It's still bad. He's sitting a couple times. He's hitting 6th and 7th. He has 15 RBIs on the season. And 5 home runs. He has 8 steals, so at least he's shifting there, but he's hitting 191 right now. He's actively hurting any team he's on, and those teams he's on, including mine, I just kind of play him every week because I'm like, it's got to turn around at some point. He was 21-20 last year. It hit 260. Like, he was a valuable fantasy player. It has fallen off the table. Is he a drop?
So this one the only place I have him is a DC, and I think my DC has been so decimated that I've had to drop him. I mean, I've had to keep him, even had to play him, which is even better. But
and obviously you can't drop him, but you're saying you took him out of the lineup a couple times.
Couple times, but not every time. 12 drop, 15 I'm on the fence on. And I don't know, that probably doesn't help you, but let me answer your question with a question, because that's always popular. Who was your alternative? Who could you have pivoted to drop them?
It would have been a pickup. It was I probably have some decent guy on the bench, but it was any kind of the outfielders we'll talk about in a bit. But one of those pickups in the outfield is what probably what I would have done. Hunter Goodman, Will Brennan, Dominic Canzone, a stash in Parker Meadows or Garrett Mitchell. So there were some interesting names, but I just the concern with Springer is that sometimes you look at these guys and everything looks fine. I forget who it was that I looked at last week. It was someone everything looked fine. Everything looked normal. It was Christopher Morel, actually, who is hitting about 200, had a homer tonight, but it was everything you looked at. It was everything was fine. His BABIP's just really low. Maybe striking out a little too much, but everything looked kind of the same. He's hitting the ball hard. Springer's at 34% hard contact, 5% barrel. Both of those are clearly career lows. He is clearly, we're talking 3 months and he's a different guy. The strikeout rate's about the same. The walk rate's up, but if you're not hitting the ball hard ever, it just doesn't matter. I know his BABIP's really low, so the batting average probably come up, but come up to what is the question is, will there be any power? I don't know. We're halfway through the season and he is, I've probably used him for almost every week. I could look. I haven't sat him very often. It's been bad. 15 RBIs just destroys a fantasy team.
Did you hold him though?
I held him for now. Yeah. Yep.
Just maybe give him a little bit of tough love and bench him for a while.
Yeah. I had a couple of better drops in the outfield but I say better drops, but I mean, Springer's been terrible. Not many people have been worse. I mean, it's 15 RBIs is it's brutal.
And you don't really aspire to have better drops, by the way.
You do not aspire to have a drop. That is not something to brag about, Jeff.
Yes.
Aaron Civale in Tampa, someone who was really solid last year. 122 innings, had an ERA under 3.5, has been bad this year. 5.4 ERA, 1.39 WHIP. Strikeout and walk rate are exactly the same as last year, interesting enough. Swinging strikeout is exactly the same. Home runs have doubled. Home runs have really, really hurt him. BABIP's up about 40 points. Strand rate's down about 8%, so maybe some of that fixes. But getting a lot less ground balls, which is concerning. A guy that doesn't strike a lot of guys out. He's certainly have a lot of fly balls and line drives. You really worry. He was always a 40% ground ball guy. Last year he was down a little bit, 39%. He's at 31% this year. Hard contact's up, so you get more hard hit balls, more fly balls. The biggest concern to me is just the innings are not there either. Today he was he pitched 5 innings and he got pulled at 61 pitches. I don't know if it's a third time through kind of thing, but he was actually pitching well today. I was watching that game and because it was him and Skeens while I was watching. I was watching to watch Skeens, but and then all of a sudden it was the 6th inning and they went to Clevenger and he had 61 pitches. I guess the third time through thing, but if you're not going to trust him to do that, 5 is the most you're going to get. It makes it really tough to play him.
Yeah, I'm trying to see now if the third time through it. I'm trying to pull up quickly. I need to look in Fangraphs where I can find that real quick. What happens third time through? Because that seems to me okay, yeah, this is the sort of team that would dive in on this. If there's an organization that's aware of these tendencies, it would be them. They would know what to do.
Yeah, I'm looking. He came out. Yeah, he came out for the Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz inning. So it was he went through 2 times and they got him out of there, which is, it's not great.
Yeah.
And you're right. Maybe the smart thing to do, but fantasy wise, man, you're gonna get a lot of 4-inning, 5-inning starts. That makes it really tough to get wins. He's not a big strikeout guy anyway. You want those 7 innings. So a couple more strikeouts. It's not great. Oh my God, his ERA is 14 third time through.
Yep, that's right. 267 first time, 460 second time. That's not good. 14-18 the third time through. WOBA 411 third time through. Second time through is not really a prize either. Batters are hitting 294, 341, 516. Second time through the order.
He's pretty darn good the first time through, though.
Yeah, that's great. I bet you it probably is similar to most pitchers, though, that first time through. But it's sure nothing even that special. But yeah.
Yeah, he's got a 500 slugging against second time through and third time through. But so the Rays are probably making the right decision here, even though he was cruising today. He was at 61 pitches, but the middle of the Pirates, top of the Pirates lineup came up in the sixth, and they got him out. Probably smart, but fantasy wise, what do we do? Are you holding him? Do you drop him? What do we do with him as fantasy managers here?
I think it's pretty easy to drop a pitcher, especially Civale. It's not like he's got this lengthy record of being a core player for us there. He's a guy that was often on waiver wires even before the trade last year. He had some really good moments with Cleveland, some really good moments with Tampa. But if you even look like his splits, you thought, he went to Tampa and really crushed. No, that didn't really happen either. He had a couple of really good starts. His K percentage went up. You thought, they're going to do Tampa things, but Cleveland does Cleveland things to pitchers.
Yeah. So he was solid. I think I agree with you. I've not dropped him yet, but he's definitely at in the drop zone for me. I think that the more I looked into it, the more I realized it's gonna be really tough to use him, at least on a consistent basis.
Exactly.
Let's see. Just a note before we get into some other stuff. There's 15 teams with 7 games this week. This is a very big week in fantasy baseball and regular baseball. But there are 3 teams with 5 games, which matters a lot this week when you get so many teams with 7. The Astros, the Rockies, and the Mets have 5 games this week. So definitely pay attention to that as you are setting your rosters and stuff. There are the 3 teams with 5 games there.
Yeah, and on top of that, the Rockies, they're on the road, and they're 2 of those games are at Houston. So if you're thinking about streaming a pitcher, but if you were, that's one of them. That's one thing you don't want to deal with there. So it's even worse than it looks.
Yeah, it's tough. It's gonna be a fun week. I think we've started to see more offense this week. Runs and home runs have been really down for the first 2.5 months of the season, but it's getting warm everywhere. It's hot here. It's hot everywhere across the country. We'll probably see a lot of runs this week. But let's fire through a few news and notes. I do want to get to the FAAB ads. We already talked about Kyle Tucker, so we can move on from that one. Jesus Luzardo, really bad news here. When we talked last week, he had some back soreness and wasn't sure he was gonna make his start. We talked, and I was like, I think I'm gonna take him out this week. I took him out. But then he went on the IL. Then they put him out 4 to 6 weeks. Then he went on the 60-day IL with a lumbar stress reaction. I guess the theory is he's not going to be back for 4 to 6 weeks. You might as well just make it 8 weeks. I assume you agree with me that he is a complete drop in all formats at the moment.
Yeah, it's almost like the Breakfast Club suspension. You want to get 2 weeks? Give me 4. No, give me 8. It's the worst possible news for the Marlins too, because
they were going to trade the heck out of him.
Right. Yeah. Right. Edward Cabrera is on the IL also.
Yeah, on the 60 now also.
Yep. And Braxton Garrett's hurt also.
Yep.
It's just the hits keep on coming.
And they were bad to begin with, but you want these guys healthy so you can trade them. They were definitely going to trade Luzardo. He was going to go somewhere, and that was going to be a big piece too. And now he's back earliest August 23rd. I think he was an easy drop for me. I dropped him in any format I had him.
Yep.
That's a tough drop too, because that's someone that was your second or third starter. That's a brutal loss right there. We mentioned real quick, someone asked in the chat, and you mentioned about Aroldis Chapman, David Bednar, 15-day IL with a strained left oblique. The Pirates have made this seem like they don't think it's serious, but as you and I well know, any kind of oblique stuff with anybody tends to linger. Is never as easy as it looks. If you were bidding on Chapman, were you doing it for 2 weeks? Were you doing it for 4 weeks? What was your thought with Chapman this week with Bednar going the IL for this?
I did 4 weeks because I also think the Pirates, they're on the fringe. They could be going for it or they could be selling. They're one of those teams, that they have to have a good couple. They have to have a good July. Yeah. And if they don't, well, then maybe Chapman's a prime guy to sell off. So I think either way, they want to feature him for a good amount of time. I
agree completely. I think he's their best option. I think it's very clear that he's the guy. I think when they signed him, it was like, I think they probably know that if Bednar went down, he was going to be the guy. And as you said, if they want to trade him getting 7 saves in 4 weeks would be really nice towards showcasing him for a late July trade.
Yep.
I think he's the guy. I think he's one of the few situations we've had this year where a closer went down or got hurt or got suspended. Thanks, Edwin. Where we actually have a clear guy next.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you since we're talking about it, what kind of ranges was he in your 15 teamers?
So I did not get him and even come close to getting him in the main.
How much did he go for there?
He went for 89. I think we went up to maybe I wouldn't say not close. Well, it's not close. We weren't one of the top 2. We bid 51. Now the background here is here's the great thing. We're low on, we got like 320 in FAAB to start the week, but we only have one closer. So what do you do? I mean, and I don't want to blow like $80, $90 on a 2-week solution.
Yep.
So, I mean, a 4-week solution is a little bit better as far as it goes, but
it was a tough call because if that lingers at all, he's probably going to be worth it, at least if they get some wins and he pitches well. But I know he struggled in April, but he's been really good since then. His ERA was like in the 3s in May, and it's down to 2.3 in June. He went for 78 and 81 and 78, my 315 teamers.
And I got him at 45 in my other 15 teamer in Scarf. And he was actually already owned in Yogurt. So there you go. So
he went for 92 in my TGFBI. So a couple of those were me, and then in my auction league, of all the people to lose to, I lost to John Posma, 78 to 78.
Oh no, Scott, I'm so sorry. How are you ahead of him then? Wow. So I mean, you're already
there's that the humble bragger in there is that I'm actually ahead of Posma in the league, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm in 4th and he's in 6th. He's like 3 points behind me.
Of course. So it's like. Maybe at the standings were, if you did the bidding on Friday, it might have been different or one of those things. Yep.
Very possible. He gained 4.5 points today. So yeah, awesome. He's on the move. And of course, 78. Those are so fun when you win and so painful when you lose.
Oh, I know. It's excruciating when you lose.
Giancarlo Stanton, to no one's surprise, finally hit the IL, a strained left hamstring. He's out 4 weeks at this moment. I have him at a 15-teamer. I held him. What do you think about Stanton in terms of a hold in 12 and 15s?
He's a hold. I think so. It's been hard to find power this year. I held him 18 homers and hitting 249. You've gotten your money's worth from him.
Absolutely. He's already paid off. He's got 45 RBIs also. I'm a hold with the thought that like if there's some kind of setback, knowing Stanton, then maybe I'll think about it. But
they did say 4 weeks. So I mean, we already know that.
Yeah.
But so see also dropping Jordan Romano though. If I'm going to hold Stanton, I got to drop somebody else. That's
a key point. You can't. I mean, it's important. You got 3 or 4 injuries. You got to drop someone. I had 5 middle infielders when I made events. I didn't want to drop any of them, but I just kind of had to. It just doesn't make sense roster wise sometimes. So every once in a while, you got to drop that 100% owned guy, and it always kind of hurts though.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So yeah, it's tough.
Fernando Tatis and Nolan Arenado, both guys that sat the weekend. Arenado had forearm discomfort, nothing to do with his hit by pitch. He got hit in the right arm with a hit by pitch earlier this week, and then he had forearm discomfort in his left arm. He sat Sunday, left early Saturday. Fernando Tatis did get hit by a pitch in his tricep. He sat Saturday and Sunday. I imagine he's fine. He got hit in the muscle. It seems like he's okay, but Arenado forearm discomfort. It's a little more concerning for me.
Yeah, and Arenado bad performance is a little bit more disturbing for me too. But although it's not really disturbing because I don't have him, so I'm kind of. But yes, as a human being, I feel bad for him. But yeah,
can we just call up Jordan Walker and call it a day now?
They should. They're. I mean, the Cardinals are playing better ball though. That's
they're actually playing pretty well lately. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of a problem there. But yeah. Yeah, it stinks there. Tatis, I mean, that's one that kind of eluded my attention because I don't have him. And I know he's been good.
And everything I've read, I think, and he was coming on late too. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, probably so.
I was just looking, since we've talked about Chapman, I was looking at the Chapman bids. There was a wide range. There was a lot of bids in the 60s and 70s. There's 1,209, and then there was a team that got him for $8 with no backup in the main event too, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. By the way, on Tatis, Michael C chimes in and says Tatis has been dealing with a quad for weeks. It says that's why he's not running. Also, don't have him. Kind of eluded my attention again on that. Also, so yeah, I mean that's frustrating. The Pods, the thing is, the Padres have had a lot of negative things, and they're still, a playoff team right now, which is kind of interesting.
They are hanging around. They're a team that, man, you look at Tatis' stats too. He's got a 54% hard hit rate. Like everything looks really good. I know the steals are down, and that's concerning. You draft him for steals in the first round, but at least he's got 50 runs. He's got 14 home runs. He's not hurt any teams at the moment.
Yeah, correct.
Gabriel Moreno went in a 10-day IL with a sprained left thumb. If you have him, make sure that you have a backup catcher. Starling Marte sat Sunday with lingering knee soreness. You never like to hear. Having an MRI on Monday, there was a quote from the manager. I think it was pregame. It was like, I think he'll be okay, but he's going to get some imaging. That seems – I'm always worried until I actually see the imaging. That's concerning one with Marte. It's knee soreness, especially for someone you want some stolen bases from. Especially for a team that's off on Monday, too. Also true, yes. And has 5 games this week. So we may not even get a quote on him until Tuesday. Right. Clear bench for the week at the very least. Absolutely. I've already slotted him there. I had him on the bench for the weekend too, but I've had him on the bench for the one spot I have him too. Yeah. We've hit most of this other stuff. You mentioned Braxton Garrett earlier. We were talking about the Marlins. He went on the 15-day out with a left flexor forearm strain. I hear that. I consider that a drop for me on Garrett. Taijuan Walker, 15-day IL with a right index finger. Important part there. Spencer Turnbull gets back in the rotation. He'll get a pitch early this week. We're going to talk about him in a second. And Patrick Sandoval on the Angels, 15-day IL, left elbow strain. The Angels don't have any pitchers left, Jeff. But yet they do. They called back. Reed Detmers is going to get called back up. And Chase Silseth, right? Yeah, Chase Silseth. Now, granted, they've also been using Zach Plesac. And Plesac had a good start and then a Dodgers start. So I'd call it more of than a Plesac start after that. Yeah. Actually, they may not be calling Detmers back up. Yeah, that Wednesday start in the graph has changed 3 times today. I think it's really up in the air who they're going to start Wednesday. Yeah. It could be Davis Daniel, could be Detmers. I mean, what has Detmers learned in like the week that he's been down? His first start was bad. The second 2 were really good. Okay, so it's been 3 starts already. Wow. 3 starts. Self-message coming back from being hurt. He's not been good in his rehab outings. I think it's 3 of them, and it's all of them pretty got a pretty high ERA. But they're Griffin Canning and Tyler Anderson, and kind of none of their original guys right now. Yeah, that's right. Man, so many injury notes today. I'm having trouble like bookmarking all the time on all of these here. It's wild. Last one I want to mention before we do get to some ads. Eloy Jimenez is ridiculous. It's his first game back, and he hurt his head. He had soreness in his hamstring again. I don't know if you saw the clip at all. Do you see the clip of him running from first to third? No. Does that exist in the wild? I did not know. It does. So it looked like he did something going to first. He kind of like pulled up like 10 feet away from first. Then he had to go first and third on like it was either a single or double down the right field line. And it looks like a 75-year-old guy running the bases. It's crazy. It does like he's just kind of limping and going really slow. It looks like when Stanton was like told not to run how he ran. I mean, he's clearly not healthy. I picked him up last week, just kind of a spec because I knew he was in rehab. I just dropped him there. I just don't think it's gonna last. I dropped him in an online, and I'm fine. Just let somebody else deal with that. I'm desperate for power in that online, so I picked him up. And once I saw that, I'm like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this. Yeah, he's the fantasy boat. Yeah. Michael C. with the running is very charitable. That is very, very fair. I don't know what you call it, but it was I called it running, but it definitely. As someone who is not particularly fast, I'm not going to. You absolutely beat him first to third in this play. Okay, easily. Yes. All right. I'm not fast either, and I'm easily at third base before he was. That's how slow he was right now. Yeah. Let's get into some FAAB talk here. We've gone a while, but there were so many notes to go through. But first, a note from our sponsors at DraftKings Pick 6. Do you ever play the over-under game with your friends? Think I can eat that slice of pizza in under 30 seconds? You think Jeff can get from first to third in under 20 seconds? Or I know it'll take you over a minute to down that 2-liter. If you have, you're going to love the new Pick 6, the new fantasy game from DraftKings. Here's how to play during baseball season. Pick between 2 and 6 players and choose without more or less of a stat, like runs, hits, strikeouts, and more. Track your picks and play against others for a shot to win huge cash prizes. That's all there is to it. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code RWPICKS. New customers play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. That's code RWPICKS for new customers. Play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 plus in most eligible states. Not eligible in all states, including New York and Connecticut. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. So, Jeff, let's talk about hitters first. I thought there were a lot more hitters to bid on this week than there were pitchers. So let's go. Let's jump in right there. First, we're going to talk Yankees. We talked last week about Anthony Rizzo getting hurt. He got hurt in the Sunday night game last week, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he did.
The Yankees called up Ben Rice. He's been playing first base for them. I know they traded for J.D. Davis today, so maybe that puts a little bit of a problem in there. But Ben Rice, the key here, playing pretty regularly, an interesting profile in the minors. Most importantly, in NFBC leagues, he's catcher eligible, and that clearly ramped up the bids. He was added in, I think, every single main event. He was added in 57 main events, I believe, every single one. A max of 155, a min of 2. Someone got him really cheap, but most of the bids were higher than I thought they'd be. They were all kind of like the median was kind of in the 45, 40-ish range, right in there.
Yeah. Tout Wars, AL only Tout Wars. Doug Dennis spent over $200 of his $1,000 budget on Rice.
I imagine catchers in AL only. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I actually prioritized Freddy Fermin where I could over him.
I did the same, and I think I was in the minority there. It seemed like people were more into Rice.
Yeah. Rice went for 134 in my main event. Second place bid was 25, which I think was us. So we're stuck with Jacob Stallings. Oh well. At least he's not Bo Naylor.
And you got an all cores week next week at least.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we'll now hold for 2 more weeks on him, unless he gets hurt, which he probably will. But yeah, Ben Rice is interesting because his plate discipline's really good.
Yeah, and it's already kind of transferred to the majors. I mean, I know it's only 5-6 games, but he's walked a bunch. He's got a 14% walk rate already.
Yes, that's right. And Tout Wars is OBP instead of batting average also. So keep that in mind when you're looking at Doug's bid on that too. So that's another thing to pay attention to. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to see the price on him. Liz actually picked up Bo Naylor. That's kind of interesting. He's going to just rag me relentlessly
I grabbed Bo Naylor in a spot where I had Ivan Herrera who went on the IL. So I had Fermin ahead of Naylor, but I had Fermin went first. So I hopefully Bo can find it a little bit because I'm not very optimistic about it though.
Bo was in my waterfall where I had Gabe Moreno and Herrera in other leagues. So, those are things I had to do.
Yeah. Catcher injuries are just the worst. You got to pick up. Oof, it's brutal.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of sort of catchers like Ben Rice, Hunter Goodman in Colorado has started now 5 games catcher, but playing every day elsewhere around the diamond. I do know the Rockies have 5 games this week, but then they have 7 games next week at Coors. So it's kind of a pick him up now, maybe save him for next week. But he's Goodman's been playing really well lately. We've talked about him in the past. He's got a pickup, but 44% hard hit rate, 13.5% barrel rate, does strike out too much, but 7 home runs already in 30 games. You get this every day at Coors. Chris Bryant's on the IL. Brendan Rodgers did come back, but they've got a lot of injuries. Charlie Blackmon on the IL too. There is definitely room for Goodman and Michael Toglia to play almost every day.
There is. And now it's a question of how quickly will he get that catcher eligibility? Will Goodman get that there? Because that's honestly, I don't want to use
in Yahoo League's got it today. So if you play there, you got it today, but obviously at NFBC, we need 10. So 5 more. And
that was kind of like, I can't wait 3 weeks for him. I needed someone now. That was kind of the problem.
Yeah. You can't Jeffy can't use him a catcher, but I think he's usable as a 5th outfielder right now. Maybe not this week because they do have 5 games. So you can play him on the weekend and then play him in Coors after that. It's an interesting bat. One of these Colorado guys has got to hit at some point. I mean, he's hitting in Coors Field in the summer. You think someone has got to do it. We've talked about Eleris Montero, didn't really do it. We've talked about a bunch of other guys, but Goodman seems like he's at least hitting right now, which is kind of all you want in a hitter.
So, and I think the lesson always is when we were dealing with previous Rockies catchers is Coors Field makes decent hitters good, good hitters great, and great hitters amazing. It doesn't make bad hitters good.
Yeah. But he had 25 more runs on this year in 91 games in AA. I know they play at all kinds of high altitudes, but he has shown pop in the minors too.
Yeah, he has,
and a lot of
that's
hard
why I think he might be okay. Yeah. He
had a 52% hard hit rate in AAA this year, over 40% last year. Of the bats there, he was the one that we always talk about a bunch of Colorado bats, and it's just that was the one that interested me the most.
Yep.
Someone in the chat said Brendan Rodgers is awesome. I don't know what that's based on. He's never hit more than 15 home runs and has stolen 1 base in his career. So I'm not
this year though.
This year, first time ever. I'm not going to go with Brendan Rodgers as awesome. He's got a 343 BABIP. He's still hitting 275.
Yep.
No, thanks. Jesus Sanchez, speaking of guys we've talked about in the past, and we thought were going to be good. He seems to be coming on. He's playing every day against righties, getting a few at-bats against lefties, which I don't know if it's good or not, but the fact that they're trusting him to play every day, showing a little bit of power recently. I was mildly interested. Sanchez is someone I always have been interested in, but this year he's really ramped it up. 52.5% hard hit rate, 12% bail rate. Still strikes out a little too much, but it's down a little bit. I think Sanchez is an intriguing bat in a situation where they have no reason not to just play him every day.
He's this year's different guy. I want to believe in Jesus Sanchez. I've picked him up before. I probably have him in a couple of spots. I don't know.
He always hits that like 470-foot homer. I'm like, oh, he's finally arrived, and then he hasn't.
Marlins view him as untouchable, or something like that. I don't know.
But hitting fourth every day this week. He hit second once. He hit fourth 5 times. Middle of the lineup. I think it's in a 15-teamer where you need power. I think he's pretty interesting. I think he's a 12-teamer, kind of maybe a streamer. Maybe your last outfitter kind of guy. But I do think he's viable at the moment.
Yeah, I think
especially
he is
as you mentioned before, in a league where we're looking for power a lot of times.
Yeah, and I think he's one of those guys. He'll be great for a few weeks, and then he'll be terrible for a few weeks. And you just have to decide whether you want to ride that or not.
Yeah, you gotta be willing and ready to pull the plug when he does go into cold slump there. And we have a trio of guys that we have talked about in the past as intriguing call-ups. They got called back up this week. We've got Tyler Black in Milwaukee, got called back up. Joey Porfido the third time, although I think one of them was just for a day or a 26-man or something. And then Heston Kjerstad, who's utility only, but crushing for AAA for the Orioles, got called back up. Which of these 3 guys, talk to me about them. Who do you like? Who are you bidding on? Do you like any of them? It feels like all of them, like Tyler Black, got sent down pretty quick. Porfido's been sent down a couple times quick. Kjerstad came up, didn't play. It feels like one of these guys has got to break out at some point. But what do you like here?
Okay, so here's where I promised a little bit of a story here. And AL Tout Wars, I got an early start on my bids. They're due at 5:00 on Sunday, Best Coast time, obviously. And he was like, I'm just going to take a $1 chance, the flyer, in case he does get called up or traded, because the outfielders out there are terrible.
The news wasn't even out yet.
Well, getting there. The news came out at 3:40. Right. It's like, so instead of a $1 bid, I got to up it because I'm going to have to win this now. And it's AL only, and you have 4 IL spots. So you're really trying to find any sort of live body. And I know he's not going to play every day. Right. But I upped my bet to 35 out of 1,000. I won him unopposed. I fell for the banana in the tailpipe again. I'm that guy. I just did that.
I thought you were gonna say you got outbid by $1.
No. I outsmarted myself, which is very hard to do. It's just frustrating there because it's a fool's gold sort of thing. I'm hoping for a trade. I'm hoping for some sort of thing that, another shoe to drop. And that's why I'm holding on to Connor Norby in the same league instead of just cutting him when he got sent down, because I think he's going to end up somewhere else at some point in time. And I'm not going to find better on the waiver wire otherwise.
I know their team is stacked in AAA. I do get that. But he has 58 RBI in 55 games, 16 home runs, hitting 300, 48% hard hit rate. He's probably striking out a little too much, but he walks a bunch. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's been a stud. He has nothing left to prove from AAA right now. I mean, it's just a matter of if they have a spot for him in the majors. As we were talking before, I think we both agreed that who they send down is really important here.
Yeah.
If they, if they just cut Nick Maton, that doesn't matter. But as we talked about, if they send Colton Cowser down, who's been really bad since May 1st, he's hitting he can get 190 in May and lower than that in June. If they send him down, as you mentioned, that's something that's a spot to play, and that really matters. If they send down, a bench guy, kind of used to be a bench guy, but if they sit down Cowser, maybe him and Austin Hayes platoon, and he gets a strong side platoon. It really matters who they sent down. I think is an important thing here. But I put some bids in on him too because I just think that it's a significant upside on a really good team. If he does find his way to playing time, get hot for a week and kind of stick, at some point, these guys are going to stick. I know they're going to go up and down a little bit, but at some point they're going to stick. He's 25. He's left-handed. If he sticks, it could be really, really important.
Yeah, it could. And I think that's one of those where I'm really going to be watching that closely because, and it really does matter. And more on top of that, too. So they just lost Kyle Bradish. He's out. Bradish is out for the season. They were going to bring back Dean Kramer this weekend. Instead, they decided to have him have another rehab start yesterday. Dean Kramer got roped yesterday. was horrible yesterday. Albert Suarez had a really bad week, albeit against the Yankees and the Astros on the road. But it might be midnight for him. All of a sudden, they went from 7 starters to maybe 4.5.
Yep.
So my thought is, I want to get some of these Norby, Mayo, Holiday, Kjerstad guys because they might be part of a trade.
Yeah.
And
these guys could be hitting third for the White Sox in like 3 weeks.
Right. And honestly, as bad as the White Sox suck, I mean, at least it's the playing time in an AL only league or 15-team mixed league. I mean, that's gold to get.
Oh, it is. And if he's hitting third every day, I don't care. Obviously, you're not going to get the same type of production runs and RBIs from somewhere else. But give me a guy like this hitting third every day. And any of these guys could be in a Garrett Crochet deal. And that's why I use the White Sox. I was just trying to think of a hitter. Hell, they could be in a Mason Miller trade to Oakland. Like I know the A's have said the asking price is sky high, but like you put one of these names in there, suddenly that's sky high. And the Orioles can afford to do it. It's a really good point that it's getting these Mayo, Norby, Kjerstad guys, could end up starting pretty quick here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they trade one of them, maybe one of the other ones is playing in Baltimore. Like it's just there's a lot of different paths for this to work. And I upped my Kjerstad bids. I kind of upped him up my waterfall as the day went along, just because I'm bidding on a bunch of guys who are just kind of okay, and he's someone that if he played every day somewhere would have a ton upside.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A few other names here. You mentioned Freddy Fermin. I think he's I liked him. I had him above Ben Rice. I like the way he's hitting right now. I know that he's the backup to Perez, but Perez DHs a bunch, plays a little first base. Fermin's been playing almost every day. Like he had 20 plus at bats or plate appearances this week, so he's been playing a lot. Any of the other names down here? We've got Daniel Schneemann in Cleveland's playing a lot. Will Brennan in Cleveland's playing a bunch. Jake McCarthy was only 40% rostered in 12 teamers, playing a lot, and he always runs when he does play, so that's really important.
McCarthy I picked up last week or even 2 weeks ago in the main.
That's
been
smart.
Playing him.
Yeah.
All these guys have their merits. Schneemann has had his moments. I picked up Brennan in the main this week because like we had the promise of Kevin Pillar. Here's another fun one. Kevin Pillar, who's Kevin Pillar, I get it. Started 7 straight games. We pick him up. The Angels had 6 games this week. He played 2.5 of them. I mean, he's been one of their better hitters, which is weird. I mean, I know I'm saying it about Kevin Pillar, but he's been one of their better hitters. Yeah. So my point is my timing is impeccable and I'm really awesome at this stuff. My FAAB, I'm telling you, my FAAB has been terrible this year and I've been a little distracted. I'll give you some of that, but I've been bad in FAAB a couple of times. I'm not aggressive. Somehow I'm not aggressive enough and yet still don't have a lot of money.
It's been a tough FAAB. There have been very few guys who got picked up and turned out to be impact players, at least, especially in offense.
Yeah. I'm the FAAB shouter, whatever that is there. I'm like, I got that wrong after the fact.
I like that. A guy that I was in on this week is Dominic Canzone in Seattle. Seattle gets 6 righties this week, and he plays against all righties. 46% hard hit rate, 11.8% barrel. He hit a ball to the moon on Saturday night. I happened to be watching, so up my bid a couple bucks just because I'm watching him in a home run.
Of course, whenever you watch a guy,
I know, crushing the upper deck. I'm like, how does this guy ever get out? It's crazy. But someone that's shown some pop in the minors when he was with the Arizona farm system. He was 16-14 in 2022 in 88 games. He had 16 home runs in 71 games in AAA. But it's really a streamer for me. Seattle has six home games or six righties this week, and he plays against all righties. You're trying to fall into 2 home runs, which is big for a streamer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else on this list? There's just kind of guys we already talked about. Mauricio Dubon's playing a lot for Houston. Gio Urshela is kind of playing every day and kind of fine for the Tigers, but playing a lot. But mostly I want to ask you about the injury and AAA guys. The injury guys, we've got a lot of guys that are about to come back. I know one of you picked up. We've got Michael Massey in Kansas City starting a rehab assignment Tuesday. Lars Nootbaar and Tommy Edman in St. Louis are starting to ramp things up a little bit. Obviously Nootbaar is kind of a good all-around player. Edman can help your stolen bases. Alec Thomas in Arizona. Kerry Carpenter's starting to do some stuff in Detroit. And then Xander Bogaerts had some quotes this week where he says like early July is possible for him. I don't know if I buy that, but he's starting to do some stuff, and it seems like he may be not out as quite as we thought. And I know that Bogaerts wasn't really good before he got hurt, but still a guy that was a top 10 round pick in drafts. Any of these guys that you like more than others, any you were targeting in terms of these injury guys who maybe are a week or 2 away?
So I like Carpenter the best of those. I think he's the best hitter of those. And I did pick him up in the main for a buck. It was just, but I know he might not be as close as some of these guys, but it's more just like, okay, who could be a guy that could make an impact later on? And I thought, okay, let's go him.
Yeah, he's beginning baseball activities Monday, at least was the hope. So, you're talking maybe when you do that, you're talking 3 to 4 weeks, something like that. But I mean, you pick him up for a buck. If you've got to drop him back, you can drop him back. I thought Michael Massey was interesting just because he's about to be ready. And there's definitely playing time spots here. He was hitting 294 with 6 home runs in only 29 games. So he kind of shown something there. And he had 15 home runs last year. Thought he was interesting. I think Edmonds the one that, if you need stolen bases, like he becomes pretty interesting. But I just don't know how playing time is going to work out there. They got Newbar coming back. Alec Burleson had a monster week. That dude's been really, really good. Really good. He had 2 more stolen bases today. Potentially Jordan Walker coming back, Newbar coming back. They already got some guys. I just don't know if Edmonds going to be a, slot in every day kind of guy for the Cardinals.
No, that is the tricky thing. I mean, the funny thing is this is a new they're kind of a new Cardinals with Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson going 1-2. No, that and Gorman's such a big important part of that team too now. I know Gorman's not hitting for average, but at least he's getting them desperately needed power.
And even Brendan Donovan had a really good week this week too. Like like you said, you mentioned they're playing better baseball. But yeah, Donovan and Burleson were really good this week.
Yeah, and Wynn had his moments too, and I like Wynn a lot. I think he's a solid
I love
player.
Wynn. Watching him play shortstop is really fun.
Yeah,
I know it's not a fantasy take, but watching him play shortstop with that gun, is just
but it is because it guarantees the playing time.
Very true. He's not moving off shortstop. You can throw the ball that hard. It's awesome to watch.
Yeah, it is. But segueing, they now need to make room for Jordan Walker.
Yep. Who's turned it around the last couple of weeks in the minors, and at some point they've got to just let him play.
Yeah, I agree. And I know the defense is part of the issue with them. And the thing is, the thing that hurts Jordan Walker is now the Cardinals are winning. So they can't afford to just give away the playing time.
A nice 5 games losing streak is usually really good for a guy in the minors, but they're playing well. You're right. It's tough to find a spot for him. Maybe I just don't know because Michael Ciani's playing center, so I don't know who plays center if he doesn't is the problem, and Walker's not playing.
It's not Walker. Yeah,
I know it's not Walker, and I don't think it's Burleson or Brendan Donovan or I guess Dylan Carlson, but you don't really want him hitting. It's just it's tough. They're going to have to find a spot for him. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to have to do it pretty quick. Someone in the chat asked about Tyler Black. We mentioned him when we were talking about the guys that just got called back up. I do really like Tyler Black, mostly because it's a third baseman who has a significant stolen base upside. You don't really get that. If you have a team that needs stolen bases, you can stick a corner infielder that gets a bunch of steals. That's really valuable. He hit second today too, I think.
Yeah. I got one more sneaky stash, and I know he's not, you got to check your league eligibility rules. You can't pick him up in the NFBC. So that's why you might not have even been on your radar yet. But Brooks Lee in Minnesota playing a lot of second base now. 2
homers on Saturday, right?
Yeah, and shortstop's spoken for. That's fine. But Brooks Lee is a prospect, a good prospect at that, and he's not going to replace Correa. He's going to play alongside of him. Eric Segrist made a good point about that in our FAAB column today. You should check that out. AL FAAB factor.
He's hitting 350.
Yes.
Only 65 plate appearances, but was he hurt to start the year? It looks like
must have been, yeah, because he started off in rookie ball, but after finishing AAA last year, former first round pick, 2022. He's a good player, and I stashed him in AL Tout Wars. I wasn't the only one that bid on him. I bid a little too much. I bid 13 out of 1,000. Someone else bid like 1 or 2. I'll take it. I want these are the guys you get them before. If you can get them before they become expensive, you do so. Yeah. And that's a guy I did with that.
Billy Harris in the chat mentioned, do you think Tatis Jr. plays this week? I do think Tatis Jr. plays this week. I think it's from everything I read, it's a tricep muscle kind of thing. I do think he will play. But you obviously check lineups and stuff. Lastly on offense, Jeff, the AAA comeback guys. We mentioned Jordan Walker. Do you think that we see Parker Meadows or James Outman soon? Guys who are hitting well in AAA, and honestly, both their teams could use a good Parker Meadows or a good James Outman in the lineup right now.
How dare you besmirch the good name of Akil Baddoo and his home run today?
I can't believe Akil Baddoo hit a home run today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was the bad version of that White Sox pitcher today.
Jonathan Cannon, who was one out away from a complete game shutout on Monday.
Against the Astros.
He pitched an inning today and gave up 8 runs. Luckily, 3 of them were unearned because I did pick him up in a league. So it turned out to be 5 runs in 10 innings with a win. So, I can't really be too upset with that. But, man, was today brutal.
Yeah. Sloppy Joe asks, why no love for Hayward? I mean, I think he's pretty much a known commodity at this point in time.
I think Hayward is usable as a deeper league streamer when they're playing all righties, and I think he's good on defense and helps them. But yeah, not someone that
I don't think we need to spend time on him. Let's just
no. I don't think. I think he is who he is.
Yeah. Although I'll say this, the Dodgers face 4 righties this week, so it's not even great. But the 2 of them are against the White Sox, Flexen and Fetty, so 1 for 2 there.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't say 2 for 2. I was very insulted.
I know. And Logan Webb, who got knocked around a little bit today. Crochet, Howard, okay, fine, and Wizenhunt, who is making his first start of the year.
Is that Ken's son?
Wizen Punt.
I was gonna say I knew you were gonna go with Wizen Punt.
If he's gonna make conservative decisions on the mound, then yes.
Nice. Let's talk some starters real quick. Spencer Turnbull getting called up. He was really good earlier in the year. Managing innings is why he moved out of the rotation. It was not not anything else aside from there, just trying to make sure they kind of manage his innings. Taijuan Walker went the IL. We mentioned that earlier. Turnbull comes back in. 2.63 ERA, 105 WHIP. I do understand some of that is in relief. He had 6 starts. He made 10 in relief. How do you feel about Turnbull? Because I really like this arm. I really liked how he looked early in the year. And man, he plays on the Phillies. He plays on the best team in baseball right now. Like, give me all those wins. I was very interested in Turnbull this week where he's available.
I picked him up in 3 leagues.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
18% K minus walk so far. The swinging strike rate's at 10.3%. You can work with that. A lot of ground balls too. Guys, a little bit of punch out, a little bit of ground balls. Really works out nicely.
Yeah, I was disappointed when there was a league where he wasn't available. Let's put it that way.
Your friend Pretty Shanky mentioned one of the guys we were talking about, Landon Knack with the Dodgers. We were talking about Dodgers pitchers. He picked him up for $51. I think they realized the reason there weren't any backup bids is because we don't know if he's going to pitch next week. So a lot of people are pitching for, they're going for the streamers, that kind of stuff. But I think I do like Knack a lot, if he can kind of slide in there. But they do have Kershaw coming back at some point, although he had some soreness after his rehab start. So who knows how quickly that'll be. But it looks like if they skip this week, Knack wouldn't pitch. They have a day off in the middle. So they can go Paxton, Miller, Stone, Glass, now Paxton, Miller this week.
That's what our projected starters grid has.
Okay. So if you do that, that's just he just may not get a start this week, and it's hard to add guys you can't start right away.
And then when does Buehler come back? If Buehler if Buehler comes back a week from now, then you don't even get any more starts out of Knack. You'll just be left singing My Sharona to yourself instead of playing the Knack. So unfortunately, I like him a lot. I picked him up in a score sheet league, but Knack is someone that I just couldn't chance on in our formats for the most part there.
I was the same way. What about this group of 2-start pitchers that are all kind of scary that were getting picked up in 15-teamers? Kyle Hendricks back in our life. He's at San Francisco, at Milwaukee, off the 8 strikeout outing in his last start. Luis Medina in Oakland, scary, but he's at LA and at Arizona. And then Griffin Canning, who has been, someone that got drafted in almost, I think, every main event. He's 88% roster there still, but 6% in 12-teamers. He faces the lovely matchup of the A's and then the Tigers.
Yeah, if you're not going to use Griffin Canning this week, you're never going to use him.
Yeah, if you pick him up, you better use him. And if you didn't, you're never going to use him because you can't get much better than that.
Old friend Kyle Hendricks, I stayed away from.
I did too. I looked at it. He's been pretty good lately, but man, you look at everything overall and he was so bad earlier in the year, and I know that he had the 8 strikeouts, but that feels like some smoke and mirrors there and some flukiness. I couldn't do it.
I'm neither funky nor cold, so I did not get Medina.
I actually got that reference right in my wheelhouse right there, Jeff.
Yeah, I figured as much. I figured you know that.
Yeah.
I stayed away from Kenta Maeda.
He was in my waterfall. The guy that I really like this week, he's 35% rostered in 12-teamers, is Spencer Schwellenbach in Atlanta. Yes. Mostly rostered in 15-teamers. We talked about him a few weeks back, but he kind of struggled his first couple starts. Been really good his last couple starts. I really liked what I saw from him in the last couple starts when I watched him. He's at St. Louis, which we kind of talked about before. Like there's, they're playing better, but I don't avoid that. He's home against Pittsburgh the second start. You got to like that with the Braves offense. I really liked the Schwellenbach added in 12-teamers.
Yes, I did too. And for me, it was Turnbull and Schwellenbach, or Turnbull or Schwellenbach. That was kind of my method there. Just if I had, depending on how many spots I had to fill. But yes, Schwellenbach was my number 2 choice behind Turnbull this week. I didn't get him though in most of those leagues, unfortunately, but would have, it was all in 12s, obviously. In the main, he was already rostered.
Someone in the chat mentioned they added Patrick Corbin off his best 2 start weeks in the last 5 years. Godspeed. Godspeed, Chad. Godspead.
Good luck. Good luck.
Good luck. Who does he face this week? I admit that I did not look at that when I was making pickups. He faces his 2 starts at San Diego, and then maybe a second start at Tampa Bay if the Nats don't go 6-man, which they probably will. He probably goes at San Diego, at Tampa Bay. That scares me.
Yeah, and that's kind
you
of
you gotta hope Tatis. You gotta hope Tatis sits tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely you do. As a Matt Waldron manager, I hope he does not sit, though.
That's true.
Yes.
Matt Waldron's really fun, by the way. I love that you have him. That must be a fun guy to watch. I wish I had him on a squad.
He is a fun guy.
Yeah. Relievers. We kind of mentioned Chapman already. I think I was pretty aggressive with him. I was in the one league. I only have $140 left, so I only went 48 there, and I was still pretty aggressive with that amount of money left. Like that's really put myself in a hole. But I have 11 saves all year, and I have Edwin Diaz, so I kind of needed anything I get. It didn't get him there. Did get him in the main event, and got him in in my online championship. We mentioned before, we didn't go over again, but I just think he's a guy that it's his job. I don't know how long, if it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but while he's there, it's his job. And we've also got the possibility that maybe he's there 4 weeks, like you mentioned before. He gets traded somewhere that he actually closes too. Like there's a number of spots of contending teams where he could end up closing too.
Yeah, exactly right. Unfortunately, I got him in the leagues where I didn't get him in the main. I didn't get him, in other important leagues so far. Some still left, but yeah, I got them in some leagues, and every league is important. Every job has dignity, everything like that, but I didn't get them in the main. That's where I really needed them the most.
Yeah. Did you do anything else for relievers? Because this has been a struggle for me to find relievers, which is why I was so aggressive with Chapman. I know we talked about the Cubs bullpen last week. Hector Neris had another blow up this week too, but I just don't think there's an ad there. I looked at Keegan Thompson, and he came in the 5th inning today or the 6th inning today. I was like, I literally hit the little trash can on my waterfall as soon as he threw his first pitch. I was like, no, I'm out of here on that one. Yeah. I don't see that. I was mildly interested in a little bit of John Brebbia in Chicago with the White Sox. I think that Kopech has not been good, and they kind of split some stuff here and there. So maybe you can steal a save there, but it's the White Sox. Like, how many saves are you really going to hope for? It's just it's been tough to find anybody that's actually a set closer, which is why I went so aggressive with Chapman.
Yeah, exactly right. It was mostly Chapman or bust. Trying to think, there might have been a league or two where I had other relievers in my waterfall, but man, it's just slim pickings. And I think occasionally you like Griffin Jacks got the save today, but I think it's more because and Duran didn't pitch yesterday, so noteworthy about that. But yep. I think for the most part, Duran's still the guy. He's still fine. But Jacks is a very good pitcher, so it's one of those. If I don't have 9 good setups, well, I can throw Jacks in there. But the question is, can I time the market right? Can I even hold on to him? That's the tough part there. Chris Stratton's another one with the Royals that I was looking at a little bit.
Yeah, did MacArthur throw in the 7th inning the other day? He did, right?
Yeah, and Stratton's actually been good lately. Yeah, that's the tough part.
It reminds me of was it 3 years ago when during the draft the Pirates announced that Bednar and Stratton were in a timeshare. Like as I picked Bednar like 20 minutes before. Yeah.
Of course.
By the way, it worked out fine for Bednar, but yeah, it's always what I think of as Chris Stratton is. I think it was Justin Mason, our friend, who leaned over and went, by the way, your closer's now in a timeshare. I was like, what are you talking about? He handed me and I looked at the phone. I'm like, oh, there it is. So.
Yeah. Angelo asked about Chad Green. Not available in most of my leagues.
Yeah, we talked about a bunch last week. He was actually available, and he did not get picked up in one of my mains, I believe. I had some bids in on him, but I got Chapman instead. But I can tell you how much he went for. Probably he went for 58 in that main event. So I got Chapman for 78. I like Chapman more as a pitcher. I like Chapman more kind of in the role too, which is kind of the 2 for 2 right there.
Yes. I think that's, and I actually think I like the Pirates better than the Jays right now.
I think I like the Pirates better than the Jays too. Yeah. You said that out loud. It sounded weird, but I think I agree.
Yeah.
Skeens and Jones are fun, man. And
so
Mitch Keller. Yeah, Mitch Keller's been good too.
Bailey Falter is cromulent.
Skeens is unbelievable. Man, he's just nasty every time out. He's so fun to watch.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Griffin Jack save. It came after 8 innings of 14 strikeout ball for Pablo Lopez, someone who's probably been the most frustrating early round starter pitcher of the ones that are healthy. Boy, did he need to start in Oakland. That it does a lot of magic there.
It does. It does. And you know what? But we know that's in him, though. We know Pablo Lopez.
That's why it's so frustrating. Is that there's a really good pitcher in there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you just wish all your starters could face Oakland as often as possible.
Yeah.
You look at that lineup. It's not great, Jeff. It's not great. One of these years, I'm going to trust myself. I took Edwin Diaz over Emmanuel Clase, even though you and I talked about how much I loved Clase at the price. Clase right now has a .72 ERA and 24 saves. He and Ryan Helsley have been probably the best closer in each league. They've both been unbelievably good.
Yeah. Are you singing "That Should Be Me" every time you're watching Clase get a save?
I do. Every time I'm like, I should have this guy with 24 saves instead of the guy with sticky stuff looking like Lester Hayes tonight in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw a picture on Twitter that looked like he had stuff all over his hands. I didn't know if it was photoshopped or not, but it literally looked like Lester Hayes was stick him on from the 70s.
Yeah. And, the umpire came out with a statement saying something to the effect of, I've seen resin before. It's not resin, all that, it's, yeah. The statements all are very similar to each other.
I mean, it's just an automatic 10-game suspension, right? So it can't be more, but it can't be more. It can't be less. It's just literally 10 games the first time, right? That's just, okay.
Yep.
Last guy I want to talk about before we jump out of here, Jeff, Sonny Gray, he was 6 2/3 perfect today. Gave up a home run to Patrick Bailey, who's been pretty good, by the way. But 7 innings, 1 hit, no walks, obviously with a perfect game, one earned run, the 8 strikeouts, dropped his ERA to 2.81. It's pretty amazing how good Sonny Gray's been since he got the heck out of New York. He was so bad in New York. And aside from 1 year with the Reds, where the ERA was just over 4, you're talking ERAs in the low 3s, high 2s. He's 34 now, and he's just still one of the better pitchers in baseball. He's just so fun to watch. I love Sonny Gray, and it's just watching him deal has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, he is the baseball version of Snake Plissken. He escaped from New York, and he's been so much better.
I got that one too.
Yeah,
I know. I'm feeling good about that. But I mean, this is back-to-back years with an ERA under 3, and then 2022 was 3.08. Last year through 184 innings. I feel like he doesn't fully get his respect. He's up to a 31.5% strikeout rate this year, which is crazy. That's higher. I guess he had a 30% one in 2020, the COVID year with the Reds. But swinging strike rate's up to 12.5%, highest of his career. He's better than he's ever been right now. It's kind of crazy to see at 34.
Yeah. Well, he's healthy too. And, so many times he wasn't healthy. Right. And I think that was a big part, especially in Oakland. He had a point in Cincy where he wasn't healthy, plus just a terrible ballpark there too. So, that's the other thing. I love Sonny Gray. I wish I had more of them.
Yeah. Someone mentioned in the chat that the A's narrative isn't actually that bad. They're 7th in home runs. I do know that they're terrible in everything else. They're not good. They do have a lot of home runs though. I will give you that.
But many of them came earlier too, though.
They were hot there for a while, but it is not an offense that I'm remotely scared about, as we saw from Pablo Lopez today.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Jeff, anything else on your mind at all?
Did we talk about ABS at all last week? I'm trying to remember. The one thing that I thought was noteworthy is that with baseball is going to go with the challenge system, basically, eventually someday. They're doing it at AAA now, and not the automatic, not full-time ABS, which means framing pitches is still going to matter because you only get X number of challenges. So,
gotcha.
Catchers are still going to have to be really good at framing, and I don't like that part of the game so much. So I didn't like that result.
Interesting. All right. And just to back that up, the A's are 28th in on-base percentage and 27th in OPS. I just looked it up. So I do know the home runs were there. They have not stayed there due to the 90 home runs, but it's not a good offense. But
yep.
I'm looking what they are in runs scored. They are 28th in runs scored. So they do have some home runs. It must be the solo variety, but it's been tough. You mentioned the challenge system. I didn't know that the way the hockey challenge system worked. That is wild. If you lose a challenge in hockey, it goes to automatic power play.
It's pretty wild. And, it just means you better make sure you're right if you do it there. So
I think basketball should go to that. I think if you lose a challenge, if you 2 free throws or something crazy, I really like that rule that you better be right if you challenge. You could do it. And I think in hockey, you do as many times as you want, but you power play every time you're wrong. That's pretty tough.
It is tough. It is tough indeed.
Quite punitive right there.
Yeah. And I do think that, the Daniel Port had a good he wrote the opening blurb for the Pitcher List newsletter today. And he made a good point that I think one of the things that it's helped tennis with the radar system, Hawkeye is It's just you don't have the on court blowups as much.
It's weird that they don't do it in the French Open, right? They stick with the referee comes down and looks at it, right?
Yeah, because it's a mark, and that's
but they still have the hot gun and they show it. It's still just they seem to just use it.
Yeah, it's true. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's kind of probably more pleasant to watch because plus it's quick. It's done.
Yeah,
you appeal to
automatic.
It. Yeah. Now it's not as easy in baseball. In tennis, it's ball versus line.
Yeah,
there's not as many. There's just not. It's pretty cut and dried. Whereas baseball, I think it's a little bit harder with the strike zone and where it crosses and what part. It's all those things. But it should work out pretty quickly. I just don't know if it will.
Yeah. Cool. We want to thank everybody for listening. First of all, we do always appreciate that. If you happen to be watching us live, thank you. If you want to listen, if you listen on the audio version, also thank you for that. The chat was great tonight. There were 9 million comments. I wish I could get to all of them. I tried to hit as many as we could, but sorry, we got to focus on what we are. But we do really appreciate that. There were some people talking back and forth in the chat. I always like when that happens too.
Yeah.
If you want to follow us on Twitter, Jeff is at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. Well, thank you for DraftKings Pick 6 for the sponsorship. Other than that, we'll be back at you next Sunday night. It'll be the end of June. It's crazy, Jeff. The season's going fast. We're halfway through, and
I know
it's time to make some moves at the standings because it's going to be too late if we don't do it pretty quick here. So, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back at you next Sunday night. Take care. Have a really good week and a good fantasy week. Take care.